The defense industrial base relies on basic materials such as critical minerals and rare earth elements. The problem is, many of these materials come from China and, to a lesser extent, Russia. Bryant Harris is a reporter for Defense News. He's been covering this issue. Bryant, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Explain the National Defense Stockpile. What's in it? Who runs it?
So the National Defense Stockpile is a lot like the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for oil. Basically, it's a national, federally owned stockpile of critical minerals that are needed for supply chains in the defense industrial base, but also, vital things like technology for your iPhone. It's managed by the Defense Logistics Agency at the Defense Department.
But it's funded by the Treasury Department. Why not DOD?
That's a very good question. And part of what Congress is trying to look at right now is basically, A, allocating more money for it, and B, kind of centralizing it, because part of the problem is that Congress has authorized a lot of sell-offs, and there hasn't been much of a regular appropriations process for it in the past.
Explain that, because how is Congress just selling it off? I guess just to make money? Can they just do that?
So a lot of times, basically Congress will need to fund a program. So it's kind of been looked at as this easy target in the past when we were more focused on overseas things like counterterrorism operations. But as we get more towards near-peer competition with countries like China and Russia, Congress has started to realize that this has kind of been a bad idea. In 1952, at the peak of the Cold War, we had the National Defense Stockpile was worth $42 billion in today's dollars. That's dwindled down to $888 million as of last year. So pretty drastic reduction, and they're trying to get more regular appropriations to bolster it. Especially because, if China were to invade Taiwan or something, they would easily cut off our supply of a lot of these minerals, and we wouldn't have an adequate replacement to reproduce ammunition.
Well, let's talk about one of those minerals. It's called antimony. Mm-hmm. And what is that used for? What does the Defense Department use that mineral for?
So antimony is one of the minerals that Congress is most concerned about, because it's used in a wide array of things, everything from basic ammunition, things like as basic as bullets, all the way to explosive nuclear weapons and things like night vision goggles. So just this whole range of things. And Congress is specifically concerned about antimony right now because we import nearly all of it from China. Russia is getting a bigger market share too, but obviously we have issues with them in Ukraine. The third largest country is Tajikistan, which is in Russian's orbit and somewhat close to Iran.
So not a lot of good options there.
Exactly, yeah.
Does the U.S. have mines that can produce it?
So interestingly enough, during World War II, Japan cut us off from our supply of antimony from China. And then we got a lot of it from a gold mine in Idaho. As a byproduct of that mine, we were able to obtain this antimony. However, that mine shut down in 1997, and that's part of the reason why we don't have a very strong domestic supply of antimony and why we're importing nearly all of it from China. So that mine is currently inactive. My understanding right now is it's undergoing an environmental review to potentially restart operations.
Okay, so besides that review, what is Congress proposing be done about this?
So they're kind of just taking the first stab at it. First and foremost, the Defense Department itself has asked for $250 million to fund the National Defense Stockpile. So first, they're trying to bolster it with the appropriations process. Two, in the National Defense Authorization Act, which they just started drafting this month, they're looking specifically at antimony. They're asking the National Defense Stockpile manager, who manages the stockpile, of course, to brief them specifically on antimony by October. And they also want a 5-year plan on the status and outlook for supply chain of antimony. There's also an interesting provision in the Defense Authorization Act that they're drafting that's asking the Defense Department to institute a policy to recycle spent batteries, so you can get some critical minerals from there, like lithium, for instance.
I was going to ask you about some of the other minerals and rare earth metals that are required for the defense supply chain.
Yeah, so you have things like tantalum, cobalt, lithium, but with all these minerals, you kind of run into a lot of the same issues. For Cobalt, for instance, a lot of that comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and China controls like something like 70% of the mine operations there. And you need these minerals for things like designing airframes for aircraft, and just a whole host of other things that are critical to even replenishing things like the Javelin and Stinger missiles that we've been sending over to Ukraine.
So there seems to be a really big vulnerability here. Is there a plan to start stockpiling and maybe getting as much as we can from China before they cut us off for whatever reason?
I haven't heard of any plan to stockpile as much as possible from China specifically, but that is kind of the idea of the National Defense Stockpile. I will say yesterday the State Department just announced a strategic minerals partnership with several close allies in Canada. And the goal of that is kind of to rely on countries like, Germany, France, Canada, Japan to kind of collect these minerals between us to kind of strengthen those supply chains so we're not at the mercy of competitors like China, for instance.
All right. Well, Bryant, I appreciate you being on here and covering this very critical issue for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.